Well, John, thanks very much for coming on the program tonight, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. I want to talk to you about what's going on in Philadelphia, but before we do that, let's talk about some good news out of Maine where a gun control bill suffered a defeat. What can you tell us about this?
It did. Legislative Council last week voted down a measure which would have enacted a magazine ammo limits for the state of Maine, and this is the first that I think that we've seen in the country since the Tucson tragedy. And it had to go before Legislative Council camp because it came after the January 7th deadline. So Legislative Council is made up of leadership from both chambers and from both sides of the aisle. And to be able to have the bill introduced after the 7th, it has to pass council. And there was a 5-5 vote, which means a tie, which means that the legislation would not be allowed to be introduced for this upcoming session. But again, that doesn't mean that there won't be attempts to perhaps try to amend this language into another bill throughout the next 2 years. But it still was a blow to some of the anti-gun organizations from the national level and in the state level to enact this type of legislation.
Absolutely, and you know, those legislators who voted for this, who voted against this moving this gun control bill forward, should Maine gun owners be contacting them, thanking them?
I think they should, absolutely, because again, I think we may see this visited again sometime throughout the session coming up. But you know, I feel pretty comfortable right now with our legislature we have in the state of Maine, and we have a new governor that was elected. But you know how this game's played. It changes from day to day, so it'd be great if our members would pick up the phone and call members of leadership and just thank them for their vote.
All right. Now, in Pennsylvania, John, I noticed that the Philadelphia City Council did not take up those gun control measures last week. I can't imagine that they've had a change of heart.
No, they haven't. I know last week there was a major snowstorm that hit Philadelphia Wednesday and Thursday, but those measures are still on the calendar. They're going to be on the calendar for the next city council meeting, so they could be voted again as early as next month. So, you know, I would again try to get our members, not only in the city of Philadelphia, but throughout the state, to make phone calls to their legislator, to their city council member, and ask that these measures be defeated. Because, again, it's the same old game in Philadelphia. They want to do their own thing. In fact, there was a piece of legislation that just got introduced last week, which would apply only to cities of the first class, meaning Philadelphia, and it was more or less a registration scheme, similar to what we've seen in the past. So, you know, same old story. Philadelphia would like to make second-class citizens out of gun owners.
Absolutely, and you know they've got no compulsion about violating the state preemption law, you know, in order to do this. So I hope that the gun owners in Philadelphia are contacting their council members, and not just again those residents, but you know every Pennsylvanian, every gun owner. I kind of wonder, John. I suppose it really wouldn't matter too much if I, as a Virginia resident who goes to Philadelphia sometimes, were to make a call. Would it?
It wouldn't hurt at all, and that's why you know I'm trying to get our members from across the state to make phone calls to their legislator to put some pressure on the city to stop this from happening. Because you know they go ahead and, as you know, they pass these measures. We end up having to litigate it, and it you know it's a really throwing money you know down the tubes. Both on the taxpayer side and making gun owners have to litigate something that's clearly against state preemption.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, keep us up to date, sir, and we appreciate you coming on the program this evening.
No, thanks for having me on. I'll keep you posted.
All right. John Hohenwarter, NRA ILA's Maine State Liaison, Pennsylvania State Liaison, and more, joining us here tonight on Cam & Company.